Dr. Morgan, clinical psychologist and attachment theory expert. Did you know that I have a free attachment style quiz? You can find out your unique attachment style. What I love about the quiz that I created, it's going to tell you what percentage you are of anxious, avoidant, and secure. So you can get that exact breakdown of where your attachment style currently is. This is so valuable. This is how we change. It starts with knowing what your attachment style is. So go find the link in the show notes and take the quiz. It's going to help you so much. Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. We have a very special guest with us here today. We've been friends online, but we're finally meeting. We have Talia from Dating Intentionally. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. I am so excited to get into it with you.
Yes, we're going to talk all things dating intentionally, and I can't wait to get into your story. I want to just give you a little intro. If you didn't know this already, Talia hosts a podcast called Dating Intentionally, and that's also her Instagram handle. And she shares extremely valuable information and how to tips on how to date intentionally. Her podcast has over 100,000 monthly listeners and reaches about 100K followers on Instagram. And she lives in the Bay Area with her fiance and little rescue, Coconut. She's originally from New Jersey and lived in New York City for 10 years before moving west in 2020. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for the intro.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I love the content that you put out. It's so practical and filled with value. So I know that this episode is going to help a lot of people. Whenever I have a guest, I always want to start with their story. So I'd love to hear
Yes.
from you. How did you find yourself here and why dating intentionally? Just tell us the
Yeah,
story.
I'll give you the broad strokes. So I've been really fascinated with relationships ever since my parents' divorce, for sure. But I was in high school, so that is when I really started focusing on like what are the dynamics of relationships. And I think honestly, I realized recently that I think I've lived a lot of my life in fear of divorce. It just like that's directed a lot of my actions as a person. So like this obsession with reading every relationship book that I can, spending I've been in therapy for like a decade at least on and off, and even more honestly, like when I was younger. Um, yeah, I just so that's where that started, and then I was in a relationship for 6 years in my 20s, for most of my 20s, and after I left, I broke up with my ex when I was at 29, which is a very like sensitive age to get out of a long-term
Oh my
relationship.
gosh,
It's like,
the 30s coming. Oh, I remember
yeah,
29. Yep.
it's really one of those like, are we staying in this forever? Or like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I broke up with him, and then I was like, okay, I was just so excited to be single. I was like, honestly, the first month of my breakup was euphoric. Don't know if I've ever reached that much happiness in my life. I felt euphoric, and that's how you know it's the right decision. And I started dating. I took a break, started dating a little bit, and then I realized that, and when talking to my single friends, that I was the only one having fun. I'm like, why am I having fun and no one else is having fun? And that's when I wanted to start dating intentionally, because I want to help other daters actually enjoy the process without being so focused on the outcome. And I get it. You might hear my story and be like, well, you were only single really for a year. Like you haven't been in the trenches. No, I caught up. I went on like about 180 dates with 64 people in 10 months. Like I have seen it all. Maybe
Okay,
for not as
rewind for a
long.
second. Let's go
Yeah.
over those numbers again. 100, how many dates?
So okay, I went out with 64 people. I'm bi, so I date men and women. But I knew I'd end up with a guy, I think. And in that time I went on 180 dates. So that's not just first dates, right? That's people I've dated,
Yes.
consecutively. And then yeah, in 10 months. And then I met my fiance. I was single for longer than 10 months, right? I had a break first. I didn't just jump in after the breakup.
Wow, I think people listening need to hear those numbers because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to tell you, and I'm sure we'll get into this more, but a lot of people have resistance around volume. Uh,
I think what I did is extreme. I don't think it's realistic for most people. Like, we also have to remember I am an entrepreneur. I control my schedule. I didn't have any responsibilities. I don't have kids. Like, it was easy for me to carve out that time And I don't think it's realistic for most people. But yeah, you're right. I think people do have a resistance to just taking a swing. Just my mantra for 2022 was take more swings. And that was like a part of me doing that. It's just like swinging, 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 seeing what happens.
It's the openness and it's the, just as you already said, detaching from the result and just falling in love with the process and being willing to just keep show up in the process. So I'm sure we'll get more into that. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
continue, continue.
But yeah, so I started this Instagram account dating intentionally because I wanted to teach people how to have fun and enjoy the process. And then I've always wanted to start a podcast. So I started podcasting right around the time my now fiance and I were like becoming official in the dating process. So it's funny that I didn't actually do any podcasting while I was single, but I still do pull from my stories and experiences as in my single journey from my early 20s too in my podcast. And now I teach workshops. I love teaching work. I don't really do one-on-one coaching. I love teaching classes on like how to navigate certain aspects of dating. And that's kind of where I've been focusing my energy these days.
Amazing. Wow. And tell me about meeting your fiance.
Yeah, so we met on Hinge. Shout out to Hinge. This was right after a guy ended things with me. Like I had like a 1 month there before I met my fiance. He ended things with me because he discovered my Instagram account because one of my followers sent screenshots of the positive things I was saying about him. Yes, he didn't know. I know that's bad. It just never came up. I was gonna tell him. It just like someone beat me to it, and then he, I think, rightfully ended things with me because it was like a breach of trust.
This is
Like, oh,
wild. This is
I know
actually wild though that
it was
somebody
really
would
wild.
did somebody how did they know? Was it like one of his
So
friends?
I had a no, I had no, I had a code name for him, and like we follow each other on my personal Instagram, and I think they just were able to figure out based on like going through my followers or people I was following on my personal, which is now private for this reason. It wasn't private before, and he was public as well, so it was easy to like figure out who it was based on the nickname. Like I didn't choose a nickname that was,
This is fascinating that you would
yeah.
have someone in your audience do that detective work and anyways, that's a whole other that's a whole
Yeah,
other
it no,
rabbit
it
hole.
sucked. Like it really, really sucked. And I tried to make amends. I like tried to like get him back. I apologized. We talked about it, and he said he was like, it's not that you had this, it's that I found out this way, and it's like that makes sense. I understand why he walked away from this, but ultimately it worked out because the next week I was on Hinge and I had in my like misery, I like lined up 7 first dates in a week somehow. Don't recommend. I do not recommend doing this, but that's what I did and one of those dates was my fiance. So, and it was virtual. It was actually like a
Virtual.
video date.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know people listening are wanting to ask this question, so I'm going to
Yeah.
ask it. How, like, what was different for you? Was there anything different in the beginning, or
Yes.
was it a slow burn?
Well, definitely slow burn. I'm a big fan of slow burn. It was we had a, we he, so he I was in Seattle and he was moving to Seattle. He already had a job and an apartment there, and he was like in the process of moving. And so I was like, let's be for coffee. Why are we still chatting? Like, let's just meet. I don't want to talk so much. And he was like, well, I can't actually meet you for coffee because I'm not there yet. But do you want to do a video date? And so we did 2 or 3 video dates and a bunch of phone calls in that 1 month before he moved while I was still dating other people. Okay, this is key. I wasn't waiting for this guy. Honestly, after our first video date, I was like, I'm probably never going to hear from that guy again. I didn't care. Like I wasn't like I hope I hear from him again. I was just like, eh, it was fine. And then we did meet in person after like a month of like a couple phone calls and texting. And even after the first in-person date, I was like, he's fine. And then, but like I didn't have a reason to reject him. I could not find any red flags. I just didn't have a reason to stop dating him, so I kept going. And I think a lot of daters make a mistake where if they don't feel a spark or if they don't feel that crazy attraction, they're like, well, something's wrong. But I liked hanging out with him. I liked talking to him, and he had a lot of the things I was looking for. So by the third date in person, I was feeling attracted, and that's how long it took me to actually feel attracted to this person, who I
Oh,
love, who I think is amazing. I think he's like so hot. Like I'm crazy about him, but it took me time.
I love that you shared that because there are so many people where they don't feel that. instantaneous magnetic pull with fireworks and butterflies in their
Yeah.
stomach, and then they're going, "Oh, I guess I'm not into this person." But your story is a perfect example of, hey, the slow burn, and sometimes realizing, "Oh, there's no red flags, there's no reason why I should discontinue this. I just want to give it more
Well, it's
time,"
also
right?
I liked being with him. That's also just like the thread I was following, right? That's what I decided to focus on. It's like being around him is easy and fun. So why not keep seeing? And he's looking for the same thing as me, right? And he's looking for
Ooh.
a relationship too. So it's like why not keep hanging out with him?
You're
I didn't think he was ugly, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't neutral. I'm like this is a person who I could see they have good features. He's not my type, but we'll see, you know.
I love that. I love that you talked about, because you're noticing how you feel around him. I always talk with clients about this, right? Of, okay, how do
Oh
you
yeah, I took your
feel?
advice.
Yeah. How do you feel in the presence of somebody? And then that he wanted the same things you do, because I think people don't realize that there's actually a lot of people that don't even want to build a close relationship. They're just wanting to connect, have fun, and maybe
Yeah.
consciously they're not even aware of it, but there's just a lot of people out there that aren't wanting to build a serious relationship. So
Hmm.
getting clear on that is a big thing.
Can I speak to that? Like
Yeah.
that was me for the first 6 months of my dating journey. Like when I think that's part of why I was having fun, honestly, because wasn't looking for a relationship. I wasn't trying to jump into a relationship after a 6 year relationship that
Totally.
ended really. It was hard. It was really hard to get out of that one. Like so I think that like in that mindset, it's like yeah, you can date and have fun and meet people and look for connection without looking for a relationship. It's hard when the other person doesn't know they're doing that, but you can date that way. Like it's okay. You can. I think people are like, well, if I'm not ready for a relationship, should I date? It's like yes, just be upfront about it.
I'm glad you said that. Absolutely. It's all about being willing to have those define the relationship talks, and being willing to have those up front. And as long as you're upfront about, hey, I'm not really looking for anything serious, by all means, you can still
Yeah.
date. You don't have to sit on the sidelines just because that's where you're at. Um, wow. Well, I love this story. And then obviously I just think it's helpful to hear from you, like your personal journey.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a little deeper on it. How
Yeah.
how did you decide to be exclusive when you were starting to date your fiance? How did that decision come about?
It's so interesting. Like we had like a couple of dates in person at this point and I was still seeing other people. Like I had 64 first dates. He was number 56. So I still was going on first dates. On our fourth date, I kind of was like, I'm someone like if I'm thinking it, I'm gonna say it. Really. Like it just I'm not scared to bring things up. So I was like, you just got to Seattle. Don't you want to like meet other women here? Like you just got to this new place. That's what I would do. Like I want to explore if I was new to a city. And he's like, no, I'm good. I want you to be my girlfriend. And I did not respond. I like kind of smiled. I like just kind of like nodded. I was like, okay. Like I didn't say like, yes, I'll be your girlfriend or like, no, I don't want that. I was just like taking it in. And I think we need to, in communication, we don't need to give people responses right away. And I knew he was secure because he wasn't like trying to get an answer out of me at that point. Like he totally understood where I was and he wasn't shook by the fact that I wasn't saying yes or no or like you know what I mean? He was secure. He was confident it would work out, I think. And even though I was like, I don't know. So I would say about a couple of weeks after that, I like by our seventh date, I think that's when I stopped seeing other people. And then that's when I had sex with him. We didn't have sex until then. I was trying to take it slow. That's for me though. I had the pattern of like having sex and then ending it after that immediately. Like I'm like the guy, you know? I think I'm avoidant. Like that's my avoidance. So anyway, yeah, at that point when he said I want you to be my girlfriend, I knew that that was in my mind. So I said when I was ready to be exclusive, and then I think 2 weeks later we were like using the labels and everything.
Oh, I love this so much. Okay. There's so many
Yeah,
things we can talk about.
I know. I'm giving you a lot.
And obviously it's true to the name. of dating intentionally, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
comes up. And it's funny, intentional is my favorite word. My fiance and I joke about this. I say intentional probably 10 to 12 times a day. So he's always
Love it.
like, he's like, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, let's be intentional.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that word. But you did that. You did that in this relationship with your fiance. Um, a fun rabbit hole for us would be talking about physical intimacy. Do you want to go
Yeah.
down that path?
Sure. Yeah, this is a big topic. Definitely.
So,
Um,
because I had a pattern similar to you in my early 20s and mid 20s, actually, for way too long, where I was using physical intimacy as a way to try to build secure attachment instead of building secure attachment and then allowing physical intimacy to deepen the connection.
yes, I definitely did a little bit of that. I definitely, in my early 20s and in the early part of this journey, did the same thing. And then I, somewhere in there, like, started getting into another pattern of like, yeah, like having sex with someone and then be like, no, I'm done. Like,
And talk about that because I have been looking at a lot of attachment style trends, and there's actually a lot more women now with avoidant attachment than we used to see. So I'm
yeah.
just kind of curious if you could walk through like why that would come up for you. Was it that it felt too close and you weren't ready for that level of closeness, or why would that happen for you?
It was honestly what it felt like for me in my body was is more what people describe as post nut clarity. Like I'm just like, oh, I don't actually like you as much as I thought. Yeah, like it would be, and also I think part of me like knew that if we had sex really early on, it would probably not go further because that's like part of the pattern of dating. Even though I think with some of the guys, if I wanted to keep going and actually keep dating, they would have been fine with it and they would have been into it. Um, Also, I think that this doesn't sound bad, but I don't, look, no one's perfect. It's like once I realized I knew I didn't want to date them longer, then I would allow myself to have sex with them because it was like, oh, I know this isn't gonna go further, but I'm curious, you know. And I didn't like these patterns. These patterns weren't working for me. They weren't getting me to where I was going. So I intentionally slowed it down so that I could build those like real connection first before jumping into bed.
I think this is so key. And obviously, my podcast, Let's Get Vulnerable. I mean, I share all kinds of things. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing
Oh
that
yeah,
because I just think more people need to realize that I and this is just I guess my experience. What you just described is usually stereotyped as like a masculine approach to dating, right?
yeah, yeah.
However, what do we know? We know that there are so many women that also experience that approach. So I think it's really important just to own that as a female experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy into I know the masculine feminine energy exists,
Right.
but I didn't really buy into that myself. Like, I wasn't like worried that I was being too masculine in my journey. I'm being myself. And if
Yeah.
that means that I act more masculine for whatever reason, I don't care. It's just how I operate. Like,
Totally. And I think
yeah,
I mean, there's women listening to this episode right now who are going, oh my gosh, finally, like to hear a woman
yeah,
share their experience. Like, wow,
yeah.
I relate to that. So I think it's
Like,
it's great to share.
yeah, I think there's so much online about like the man should lead in heterosexual situations. And it's like, why? Also, I think it should be a joint effort. I don't think that there should be there's never, it's like in a long term relationship, there isn't just one leader and one follower. It's like it switches. It sometimes both, sometimes one of you. It's like there's different aspects. We need more fluidity in all of this. It can't be so rigid.
Thousand
It's like,
percent. It's
yeah,
a partnership
yeah,
and you're always one person might have the masculine energy one day and then
yeah.
it can switch multiple times throughout the day and there
And
has
just to
to be that
illustrate this,
fluid. Yeah.
like he asked me to be his girlfriend. I said I love you first. He asked me to move in with him. I kind of led the engagement process. It's like it doesn't really matter in the end. I don't know.
No. And how long have you been with
Yeah,
your fiance now?
2 years.
I love that. So
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, yeah. And again, it's like with the right person, it is easy. Like these conversations around defining the relationship. There was no. hang up. No one was like, "Oh, I need to think about it." I mean, I guess I needed to think about it a little bit, but I wasn't, I didn't pull all the way back because I was working on my secure attachment. So when my avoidant tendencies were telling me to run, I actively ignored them. I actively went the other way, even though it was uncomfortable. Like when we first got into a relationship, I was crying. I was like, "Oh my God," like I was terrified when we actually like, okay, boyfriend, girlfriend, like let's do this. I was really scared. So, but I like, you can't listen to that voice if you want to experience security, I think.
It sounds like you realize this truth. If I want a different outcome, I have to show up differently.
Yeah. And it was uncomfortable and hard at times. Like, you, especially, honestly, I had more anxiety after we got into the relationship than when I was dating, which I think is not as, not, people experience it the other way around, I think, a lot because they spend more time dating than in a relationship. But I've been in more relationships than I've been single in my life. So that's where the anxiety lives for me.
And that anxiety, obviously, I nerd out on this stuff about
Yeah.
figuring out the roots and how do we heal it at the root. I mean, you shared about your parents' divorce, you shared about the 6-year relationship. Do you feel like it was the remnants of that and that being carried over?
Oh, 100%. It's like, and even now, and like obviously I've never gotten this far into a relationship where we're like literally getting married, but even now I still have these old things come up and you have to recognize them as like this is the old stuff. It's valid, but it's not serving me. Like I can still address it, but I don't need to like apply it to this relationship. I don't need to use this information and change something. It's just there, and that's okay. That's like my approach.
That's a great approach. And then I think just to take it a step further is this idea of how much of it can you self-soothe, right? So you're learning
Yeah,
how to self-soothe and then go to your partner after self-soothing if there's reassurance that you need from your partner to help you move to secure.
I usually tell him what's going on without seeking that reassurance. I'm just like, here's what I'm experiencing right now. Like, you don't, has nothing to do with you because you're just like existing in your space and time. Like, you're just showing up as you. But this stuff is it's like this past. And he knows. We
He
talk about
knows.
this stuff all the time. He knows. Um, and it's been really nice being in a secure relationship, but it's still been triggering. It's still, there's still moments of the push pull, the hot cold, the cycles, but it's just like smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. There was research done by the Gottmans where they talked about, I don't know if you saw this, where it was like only 9% of the time will you and your partner be on the same page about how much closeness you actually desire.
Did not see that, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
Because that's even in a secure relationship, obviously there is that like, hey, I'm wanting more independence, or hey, I'm needing to be closer to you, I want more reassurance. We're
Mm,
two different human beings with different experiences and different needs. But I think with secure attachment, you also realize you don't have to take it personally. It's not about
yeah,
you.
he doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
good.
crazy because like he's really secure. And again, this was, so I was looking to break my patterns. I definitely repeated old dynamics in my last relationship with my ex. Like, oh my, like now I'm looking at that, it's like that was my dad, like 100%, like in so many ways. So this my fiance is really different, and he's secure, but it's weird because he's never been to therapy. Well, not intentionally. I think he probably was sent as a kid through his parents' divorce, but he has never picked up a relationship book until I told him about the book Attachment. Uh, and he read that. But like he's like there are people out there who do show up as secure, and I think a former version of myself would have seen him as boring, and that would have felt really boring, and like would have written him off because he was like too nice, he's too persistent, he's too likes me too much. But I think I was looking for that this time. I was like, oh, that's different, and I want it.
Yeah, you get to a point where you realize I want different. And I think this is very similar with my fiance and I,
Yeah,
that I would not have been attracted to him even if I had met him a year before I met him. It was not what I was going for. It was not my emotional home, and I was just not attracted to it. But he is also securely attached. And um, I think what's fascinating is looking at the research. There's at least 40 to 50% of the population who is securely attached. And sometimes we forget that
yeah.
when that's not been our experience or it's not been the people we hang out with. So just realizing that those people exist, and And that it makes it easier. I don't think somebody who's secure is required to build a secure relationship, but it does make it easier, right? It's super
Yes.
helpful.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I want to shift gears just a little
Hmm.
bit. What let's say we have somebody listening who they are so over dating. We know this person. They've deleted all the apps off their phone. They're saying hot girl summer, forget it. They're just done. Like
Yep.
what would you want that person to know?
I think it's okay to be done. It's okay. Like, give yourself permission to be done. Give yourself permission to just be like, you know what? Dating will always be there when I'm ready to come back to it. But like for now, I'm focusing on this. I think because it's hard to take fully be in that break when you have FOMO or like like oh God, but like what if the one is on the apps right now? Like there that's what I used to think too. So I think that's my first tip. Second tip, that's something that really helped me. This helped me so much in my single journey is like really mapping out what your life would look like if you never met anyone. What would you do? Like seriously, but like in a positive way. What would your life look like? We don't ask ourselves this question. It's like, what are you gonna do with all your time and money? What are you gonna do? What kind of how kind of relationship do you want with your family and friends? What do you like? Dream it, make it amazing. Because then when you have that, dating it's just a lot less pressure. It's like, well, I always have this. I have me. I'm not going anywhere. So those are the two things I recommend doing.
I love that because it gives you this abundance mindset place of realizing, oh, I have an abundance of options. And
Yeah,
even if you really want partnership, I think it doesn't hurt to feel into that, oh, what if life looked like this? And you can realize that, hey, it's actually not that bad, right? Like maybe you're the
yeah.
cool aunt and you're traveling the world and you have amazing friendships. You could
And
really
maybe you still date, but it's like it's hard to like you can't force a relationship if you know what I mean? Like yeah, you all you can do is put yourself out there and see if you meet someone, but like it's possible. I was ready to be single for 10 years at least. I was ready like I wasn't dying to get married like I was like ready to just be single.
totally.
Yeah.
And then what about that person where they know that okay, it's okay to be single, but they do actually want to get back in the dating game and they're ready and they feel
Okay.
pulled. What are your best tips for okay, you're getting back into it and you want to do it differently this time?
The first thing I would do before you even look at Hinge on the App Store is reflect on what you've been doing. What have you done actually? What have you tried? What are the types of people you've dated? What have your actions been in your dating journey? Because that's really all we can control and all we can really change is our actions. So that's what I would first do. And it's like, what is that picture? Okay, what can we try to tweak and change? Like approach it like a scientist, right? What is your hypothesis? What are you gonna what's the experiment? What are you trying to figure out? That's what I did essentially. My experiment was what if I tried every piece of dating advice on the internet? Like, that was basically what I did. Like what actually works and what doesn't. Um, that's what I would do. So first I'd reflect, then I would just continue to work on my mindset, honestly. Like, what do I expect? Eliminate your expectations. Seriously, that is like the hardest thing to do, but it's like necessary if you want to enjoy the process for longer. Because the higher expectations are, the more you'll be disappointed every step of the way. And then you'll burn out again and you'll delete the apps in like a week.
I always tell clients that we want to get rid of our expectations and get absolute clarity on our standards.
Yes. Yeah, they're two different things. I talk about that too.
So good. Okay. And then obviously you are kind of familiar with the apps. You like Hinge, I know. Do
I
you
like Hinge and Bumble.
Hinge and
Yeah.
Bumble are those kind of your two favorite?
Yeah, and like Field is having a moment, I guess. If you like, it's funny, like people are like flocking to Field, and it's no, it's like Field is mainly like a kink app or like for finding fun experiences with multiple people, whatever it is. But now, like people just are, I would say, who are not looking for those experiences are also on it. So it's having a moment.
Okay. I haven't even heard of that one. I guess I've been out of the apps for too long. So,
It originally started as like a place to find threesomes, I think.
okay.
Yeah,
I
it's fun.
okay, so we've got Hinge, Bumble. What do you think about because I've helped people with this, but the websites, Match.com. What's your thought?
I think think it's fine. I think it's worth trying all of it. And I had luck with OkCupid. I think OkCupid still has website is fantastic. That's where I met my ex, and we dated for 6 years. Like I would not call it a failure. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's worth trying it in terms of paying for it because a lot of apps have that paywall. I can't speak to the sites, but I think pay if you are dedicated to using Hinge, paying for the basic level, not the top level, but the basic level helps because then you have unlimited likes. And ladies, if you're dating men, if you're listening, you need to know this about the apps. There are more men than women on the apps, therefore you have the power. Men rarely ever get incoming likes, so you need to be sending outgoing likes. You cannot just choose based on who's liking you. You need to go send comments and likes. Make that first move.
That's really good. I love that. What about all the
Yeah.
women who are saying, but I want to be in my feminine energy? What do you say to them?
Okay, then great. Then you're limiting yourself to incoming likes, and you're probably not going to like most of those people.
I think
That's
this
just a trade off. Like,
Yeah, I think this is really important because I think sometimes we confuse being in our feminine with, hey, you also need to help yourself create opportunities. I always talk about opportunity creation in dating. And my take on the apps is that you're actually not building relationships on the apps because
no,
people mistake it. They think they're building a relationship. All it is an
no, yeah, no, no.
opportunity creation tool, and
Yes,
you just want to look at it as how can I create as many opportunities as possible. But you have to be part of that opportunity creation. You have to co-create it.
yeah, yeah, 100% agree. Like, you're not. This isn't the boyfriend application app. This is the like being able to start a conversation. So, when in doubt, swipe right. You should be swiping right way more than you are. Like sending out way more hearts and likes than you are, because most of those people are not on the apps anymore, or they're on vacation, not paying attention. They're already talking to someone else, or they don't like your profile. But like, you have to start with a really wide funnel.
Yes, start with a wide funnel.
Mm,
Exactly. That's the exact, like when I picture, because I'm a very like I think in pictures. The picture I have is this like crazy wide funnel, and then there's like all these little balls, I guess, that are like the opportunities, and they're
yeah,
coming down the funnel, and then the people that you meet in person, gosh, probably what
yeah.
percentage?
Let-
10%?
Let's 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 think about this. I had over 400 matches on Hinge. I met maybe 40 of them.
See, love
Maybe.
that. 10%.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
400 matches. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you that are like, oh, that sounds exhausting. I know you already clarified that's probably not what the average person would do based on
Yeah,
time
no, no.
constraints. But I tell people this. I'm curious if this matches up with what you would say. You want to make your app usage kind of like you would if you had a solid gym routine, just
Yeah.
something that is sustainable that you can do consistently where you're just not going to get burnout. And maybe that's 20 minutes a day, right?
Yeah, I used to check in at lunchtime during the workday, right? So I wasn't on all day. And then in the evening when I was watching TV on my couch.
Yeah.
Those were the two times I was on the apps for like a little bit. And also I really do think the apps, like when you start seeing a bunch of profiles in a row you don't like and you don't send, that's when you close the app. I have this weird thing, like I kind of realize like the first 5 minutes are like sending you a mix of like people you like and don't, and then after a while it's just like no, 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 no. And it's like okay, then you close it. You're done.
I
Yeah,
think that there's so much about energy and mindset too when we're
yes,
getting on the apps. And if you are getting all those no, no, no people, of course that's impacting your mindset and your energy. And then you're just kind of whatever you do after that point is not going to be helpful. So yeah, if
yeah,
you're in that place of okay, I don't like any of these people, time to close the app, time to go do some
yeah.
self-care, do something to reset your mindset, and then
Or
come
sign up
back to
for a
it.
meetup. Go remember you have like the apps are not the only way. Like I did not just meet people on the apps. I met people in person. I made the first move many times in person. Men love when you talk to them first because they're so worried about being creepy. Like they don't want to be a creep. They don't want to be the next viral thing on TikTok. Like, look at this guy he tried to talk to me. Like, go talk to guys. They're too scared right now. It makes sense.
Okay, I love this. I love the realness, and that's so true. I talk with my fiance about that, and I know my audience is going to kill me if I don't ask you this. So I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you, like, what are some things you would say to somebody if you're making the first move in person? How do you start the
You literally could
conversation?
just go up, how's your day?
How's your
Hi, I'm
day?
Talia. What's your name? I've seen you around here. Oh, like there, and you could say, like, guys rarely get approached to the point where you can just be like, blah, 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 and they'll love it. You know, like you can be, you have a lot of margin for
Yeah,
awkwardness
you
here
could say,
because
"Hey, I like
they,
your outfit."
yes, I like your outfit. You know, oh, like what kind of coffee did you get? Or like, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Or just wave and smile. Like it happens so rarely for men that we need to be taking advantage of this as women because they love it. They love,
That's so
even if they're
true.
not, even if you're not their type, they're gonna be so happy, you know. And
That's so
okay, worst
true.
case scenario, it doesn't pan out, or like they have a they're gay or they have a partner or like whatever. You made their day.
Yes.
That's it.
And I
Like,
think at the end of the day, we get in our heads about, oh, I don't want to be rejected. But the reality is, we are all humans on this planet, and connection is part of being human. So even if you're just saying hello and it doesn't go anywhere, okay, you connected with somebody. That, like,
yeah,
worst case scenario, you connected with another human.
you build up your confidence and you build up your resilience. That's really important. And look, I've made a fool of myself many times. Like it's worked out where I've met people, said hi first, and went on a date, like got their number and everything. And I've talked to people who like had a girlfriend and like they still met me for coffee for some reason. It was super awkward.
That is awkward.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
going on there?
I think it was my fault. I was like, "Oh, you're an author. I'm an author. Let's like talk shop." It was
Oh,
dumb.
okay.
Yeah, my fault. But
So,
like,
yeah. But still, it's like there's nothing, and I think honestly, this was my approach when I was dating, and it sounds like you and I had similar experiences where I was enjoying it. I'm like, why is everybody hating this? I think this is
yeah,
awesome. But I remember just having that approach of like, well, hey, we can start out as friends. Like, if this is just
yeah.
like a friendship connection and it doesn't go anywhere, that's fine.
Yeah, that's also fine. I mean, personally, I was not looking for more friends. So
Right.
if a guy hit me with a let's just be friends, I'd be like, pass.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I also just want to point out, like, look, everyone's experience is different. Like, I understand it's a lot harder to date if, like, depending on your race, your body size, your age, disability, sexuality. Like, there are a lot of challenges here. And, like, I have white privilege. And it's like, the playing field isn't even. I wish it was, but I just want to acknowledge that because we're like, oh, yeah, it's so easy. Just go up. I understand it's hard. But it's like, it's only get for it to get easier, you got to try. And I think
Mhm.
like you really have to think about what the worst thing is can happen and what you can withstand emotionally, and
Well,
then make a decision on that.
I really appreciate that. I agree 100%. And then I also just want to throw out there that at the end of the day, you get to decide what your version of fun is,
Yeah,
because
right.
everybody has their own version of what a fun dating experience would be. And maybe for you, it's that you're getting coffee with somebody once every 2 weeks and you have a really easy, steady flow of possible connections, and you're taking it slow, and that's what fun looks like for you. So I think just realizing that it's not one size fits all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go design what your fun dating experience would be, and try to create that for yourself.
Absolutely.
Did I'm curious, this is like an old trick I did, Talia. I wonder if you ever did this. Did you ever have like your go-to first date spot that you just knew
Yes.
had like the best happy hour? It only lasted an hour, so you could for sure get in, get out. Did you ever have one like that?
I didn't have one with those parameters, but I did have like a brewery that was 3 minutes away from where I lived that I loved and like is very popular, and that's where I had
Yeah.
my first date with my fiance. Fremont Brewery, shout out if you're in Seattle. But yeah, I definitely had that. But I got bored of it, so I tried to like rotate a little bit.
I was living in Portland when I was doing this, and I would go to Jake's, which is like downtown, and they had a great happy hour, and that was my first date spot. And then it honestly felt really empowering for me because, yeah, it was a 5-minute walk from where I was living. I was comfortable at the place. I knew this could not go too long. And yeah, so I don't know if you're listening and you don't have your go-to first date spot, give it a shot.
Yeah. And like I firstly, what was fun for me was exploring Seattle. So I liked when my dates came in with new ideas. Like that was how I learned the city. So like that's what you're saying. Yeah, like find your fun. Focus on the parts
Yeah.
of dating that you do like. Whether it's learning something new. People are a well of information. Like you leverage that, learn something new,
Yes,
or whether it's explore or doing something you love. Like if you are someone like I love bouldering, like if you love bouldering, bring all your dates bouldering. You're gonna be having fun even if your date sucks. Like,
totally. One of my best
yeah,
first dates was in La Jolla, and we put on wetsuits and we went and swam with seals in the La Jolla Cove on my first date.
that's so fun.
Did not
Yeah,
work out with a
like
guy, like not compatible, but I had a great time. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. So I love that advice of do something that you could enjoy.
yeah, even if the conversation's whack.
Yeah. And I love it's like, yeah, people are fascinating. They all have things that they're passionate about, and you might learn something, whether it's like, oh, go to a pottery class or go golfing if you've never golfed, or I don't know, but there's all kinds of things we can learn from people if we're just open,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I kind of want to wrap up with that question of
yeah.
what are your go-to dating mindset pieces?
Ooh, love this question. Be the chooser. Definitely the first one that comes to mind is like focusing on if you like them, not if they like you, not why are they acting this way. Because some people are like, why are they acting this way? No, 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 no. Do you like how they're acting? That's the question to ask. So the second you're like, why didn't they text me? No, no, no. Do I like that they haven't texted me in 2 days? No, I don't. Move on. Like that's the mindset. Get what else? I think getting to the know faster. Like don't be like you like and also just that ties into just showing up as your authentic self because like that's the way you're going to find like attract the person who likes your authentic self,
Oh
and
my
so if
gosh.
people are repelled by that, that's great. That's
Yes.
amazing. If people ghost you, don't like you, reject you, great, they're doing the work for you.
I love
Like,
this. I always say
yeah,
you want to waste as little time as possible, right? So we
yeah,
we want to say no to the wrong people more quickly, which is
yeah,
exactly what you're saying. And the way you do that is by being your total authentic self, and then you're going to
yeah.
know, okay, who's compatible with me, who actually aligns with me. So great.
People are so worried about being liked, and it's like, no, no, no. Assume going into the date that they like you, and then figure out if you like them. Yeah,
I love that. Assume that they like you, and then you get to figure out if you like them. Yeah.
yeah,
That's the mindset of, I always tell people, remember, you are a high value partner. This person is
yeah.
fortunate to get to spend time with you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely agree.
This has been so good. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you feel like, okay, people need to know this about dating?
We did not really get into the sex thing, so I just want to say it just to loop back that really quick, is that like my approach to like when to have sex is when you like them, when you like them, when you're on the same page about what you want in a relationship. So you've had the what do you want conversation, and you're on the same page about that. So you're not having sex with someone that you're not sure if you like, that you're not sure what they want, and you're not sure if you want whatever you want with them. That's maybe not the person I have sex with.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's
good. And I think I like that. And then, of course, I have to add mine, which is that this is somebody that you feel emotionally safe with.
yes, that. I mean, I think the three things I said kind of tie into that
Yeah,
too.
hopefully you
Like you're
wouldn't
gonna
want
feel
to be in the relationship with someone that wasn't
you're
emotionally safe,
not.
but
Yeah,
you might.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then it's like, okay, like if that takes you 4 dates to figure out, cool. I was trying to wait at least 5 or 6 dates. That was my line, but I don't like putting numbers on it because I don't think it's really helpful. Um,
no,
but that's like just it's like, do you like them and do you know what they want and do they know what you want and do you want the same things?
I like
However
it.
long that takes. Yeah.
I
And
like it.
emotionally safe.
One that I do like to point out, and I just think this is a really important perspective shift for people, is we're much more likely to have sex with someone like more quickly than even knowing what it would be like to go through conflict with that person.
That's so true.
And I like to say, well, hey, if you haven't had a conflict yet, it might be helpful to know, like, how does this person navigate conflict? And once
Yeah.
again, that goes back to emotional safety, and it goes back to, do you want to be with this person? Because ultimately you can't be in a healthy long-term relationship with
Yeah.
someone where the conflict is toxic, right? So,
And that also ties into showing up as your authentic self because if
yeah.
you're showing up authentically, you might say or do something that causes conflict and you can't be afraid of that.
Let the conflict happen. Don't
Let
avoid
it
the conflict.
happen. Yeah.
Let it happen. See how you navigate it. And that's going to give
Yeah.
you a lot of data and help you build secure attachment more quickly and know if it's the right person for you. So, so good.
Yeah.
I love it. This has been a
Yes.
really great interview.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Of course. And just remind everybody, how can they connect with you?
Oh, yeah. Find me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. My podcast is also called Dating Intentionally. It's everywhere on all podcast platforms.
I love it. And Talia seriously puts out some of the best Instagram content on this topic. And her posts are just super value packed. So I highly recommend you go follow her if you're not. And we loved having you. Thank you so much. And of
Thank you.
course, yes, both of us, we are wishing you high self worth and great relationships. Until next time.